Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to a follow-up show at CLAldridge Art and Adventure in Coloring. This is the drawing that we were coloring on Sunday on a live stream, and I thought I would continue to work on it. It is from my book, Fantasy Flower Garden. I released this, I believe, in 2018, right around August, and I've colored a few of the pictures from it, mostly with Derwent Inktense. This is one. It's got a little mouse theme going on, scattered throughout, and here is another one, and this one's still a work in progress, and the little squirrel. And here's another one. And here is probably the favorite image from the book has been this one, the little mouse. I put in the moon up there for him to be looking at with glitter pen. And so I'm doing this one also in Inktense with some glitter as well. But it's been a busy week here in the studio, and I did finish a new drawing. This one is available in my Etsy shop now, and it is designated for my next book, but it's available to color. If you want the PDF instant download, you can get it in my Etsy shop. And this one is called Honeycomb Wreath. And on to what I am doing here. Basically, I think I covered this particular flower and how I did it in the Sunday stream, so I will just continue on. And how is everybody? What kind of a week are you having? For those of you that I've run into in streams, so far this week, hi, and I've done a lot of working and lurking in streams, and I discovered that I had been missing some really fabulous new channels that have come up that are that have to do with coloring. I really like the work that Coloring with Vicky is doing. I gather that she is in Germany, and German is her first language, but she speaks beautiful English, and has developed quite a following. So I've only so far seen one of her videos, and it was just, excuse me, the first one, where she did a picture from Forest Girl 2, starting it with the Neo Color 2s. So that was pretty cool. And I've been following, of course this week I've been following Anne, and was so sorry to hear, Anne at A Colorful Life, that she had a tumble and fall. Check her channel for updates on that. I know she was having an x-ray today at 1 o'clock, so I hope everything came out well. I've heard from my oldest friend and dearest friend in the world. She went into the hospital today. They're trying to get a handle on an infection that she's got. So they're going to try and treat it with IV antibiotics. So I'm a little worried about her. But I'm also 2,500 miles away, and all I can do right this very second is hope for the very best. and throw out whatever good karma that I have into the universe, that she will successfully fight this off and be okay. It's always so hard when people that you love hurt and there's not anything you can do to help. Except be there on the other end of the phone, which of course I always am. And we are the type of friends that it could be 20 years, and in fact it has been 20 years since the last time we physically laid eyes on one another. But when we talk on the phone, we just pick up the conversation right where we left it off. So, there are just people in your lives that you meet that are like that. Excuse me, and she and I met when we were both 14. We might have been 15. Because I was about to get my driver's license. Anyway, I hope that everyone is having a good week, that whatever it is that you are hoping for happens for you. And to those of you who are battling an illness, I hope that that you are successful this, make strides this week, recovering. I know that there are a number of people out there recovering from reparative type surgeries, and another number being treated for various illnesses. So may those recoveries and treatments be going right along. So it isn't your imagination. I really did use dark blue. Excuse me, I used the indigo blue up here and the Ionian green down here, one to represent the night sky, the other one to represent the deep green of the land. So that is what that is all about. And then I'm uniting the whole thing with this black background. Now, originally when I put this down, I thought, oh my goodness, I made such a mistake using black like that, because it all looked really flat. And then I got the idea of using the gold dots with the gel pen as embellishment. And that really brought it all back together. And then, of course, I used a little bit of the pink gel pen just to outline the top flower, give it a little zhuzh, so to speak. Okay, so it occurs to me that I forgot to do this. For those of you who might be new to my channel, my name is Christine Aldridge. I am actually an artist, and I do draw coloring books for a living. And if you like what you see here, please do like and subscribe to my channel, and you can follow me on social media, and these are the addresses. I am CLAldridge Art everywhere, including Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and then of course my Etsy shop is also CLAldridge Art. Okay, so now I need to flip the book over only because it's easier for me to actually work from a top-down perspective. It does, this ridge here does sort of throw a monkey wrench into it, but I realized that I had forgotten to do this side of the little light holders, little fairy light holders. I like that. That wasn't my intention when I drew this. I just thought they were pleasing shapes, and so I stuck them in there. But as I'm coloring it, and I think I mentioned this in Dee Dee's stream just the other day, in response to her saying the same thing. As you're coloring a page, you have a tendency to make a story up about it in your head. And so my story is that the fairies have made a little romantic picnic for our little mouse couple, complete with fairy lighting, or maybe it's the mouse fairies. So the three colors, by the way, that I'm using here are the golden yellow, the scarlet pink, and the rose pink, or deep rose. I guess that's what this one is. And I'm really just straight coloring with the Inktense and just doing a gradient. But I happen to love these colors together, the pink and the gold and the rose and the, it says scarlet pink, but it's really more of an orange. Uh-oh. I got a little sloppy there. Fortunately, with Inktense, as long as it's not been water activated yet, you can erase it off the page. So we'll be a little neater with that one. So, who has watched, do you ever watch the ads on YouTube? I do it because I realize that for channels that are monetized, they get paid for the ad if I watch it. And so, I watched, what was it? It's the Drops commercial. Oh my goodness. It just makes me laugh. I must have seen it a dozen times. It's this, it's an ad for Drops detergent. And it's the president of the company, and it opens, he's sitting naked in a bathtub, and, or the impression, of course, that you're supposed to get is that he's naked in the bathtub. And so he goes on to discuss his jugs, the fact that they don't, they put their detergent in boxes and not in jugs. Anyway, and then he talks about the packaging. It's just all full of innuendo, but it's such a creative commercial, and it really is adorable, and it makes me laugh every single time. And I must have seen it at least a dozen times by now, and I still laugh every time, because when he's talking about his package, you can tell that he is just barely able to keep a straight face. If they'd have left the camera on him for even 1 second longer, he would have busted up. Now, can we talk about my package? I love creative ads. I think this is why the Super Bowl ads are always so fun in this country. If you live in America, of course, and you get the Super Bowl every year, a lot of people will watch it not for the football, but for the ads. And there are always ads that make you think, and there are ads that are tear jerkers. Um, and, you know, I love the Budweiser ads. Do you remember the year they came out with the puppy and the horse, and the puppy goes, you know, the puppy who is too little to play with the big dogs, but somehow manages to go out and lead back in the team of horses pulling the Budweiser wagon. And the horse looks over the stall, and the little puppy and the horse put their little noses nose to nose. That ad still makes me smile. All of them do. Budweiser has a brilliant marketing company that is behind all of that stuff. Okay, so there's those. And those are still a little bit wet. So I think what I will do is maybe I'll do the one of these. Hello. While those are drying, I'll do one of these. And I just do the on these, this is the deep rose. And when I drew this, I drew some of the petals are over and some are under. So it's every other one is over. So I did that. I'm always on the lookout for creative advertising. And there is some really good creative advertising here on YouTube. And I like to watch the ads for, like I say, for particular channels. Sometimes I even click through, even though I really don't have a interest in the product, because the person gets paid for the click-through rate at that point in time. So there are lots of ways to support channels, and on channels that are monetized like that, one of the best ways is to watch the ads. Because y'all know, as an artist, I hardly ever have cash to donate, so there is something under there that is causing that. I don't feel anything. Felt like there was a little bump going on under there. Oops. You know, I broke this wrist last year, or 2 years ago. I guess it's coming up on 2 years. Wow. In January of 2018, I broke it. And it's, I don't have nearly the strength in that hand that I used to have. So these ones that are the unders, I'm doing the whole petal. And then the ones on top, I only did, I left a tip. And then I'm going to put yellow on the, or golden yellow, on the tip. I'm just trying to make sure I don't accidentally hit one of them. Okay, so now I can do the golden yellow on this one. I just kind of like, I do this sometimes to just add a little visual interest to the flower, if it's just got all the same kind of petals. add a gradient to one. Okay, and as long as I've got this in my hand, I'm going to do these. On these, I just lined the outside, and then I'll wash it in to the center. That way the centers are lighter. I I watched Dee Dee's stream on Monday, and she did the Alice in Wonder, the new Jasmine Beckett Griffith Alice in Wonderland book is out. And Dee Dee did one of those, and it was so cool. And then on her Wednesday show, she showed the finished one, because she finished it, obviously, after the stream, and on Wednesday she showed it, because she was coloring in the new Clara Markova. I don't know what the name of that, the new Clara is one that I have not personally collected. I have the Hannah Carlzons and I have the Maria Trolls, but I have not collected the Clara Markovas. And I don't really have a reason why, other than that the other two, I guess, sort of appeal to me more. So, trying to decide if I want what I did up here. I think I used the saddle brown for the stems. I might have used the tan. I might have used the mustard. I don't remember. As long as I'm consistent, though, that's fine. I think that color will actually work. And then I did use the Ionian green. I used, I think, a combo of the apple green and the Ionian green for the, this is the apple green. I did the center stems with that, of these. And I'm really just putting some pigment in there so that you can cover that. And then the Ionian green, which is it's kind of well, it's this color. It's really a dark green. And I just like the way that it worked on this. And I also brought a little bit down to the inside and then also along the very outside edges of these little guys. I was watched a TED Talk today, and it was great. It's probably one of the best TED Talks that I've seen in a long time. And it was about it. It was very funny from a from a presentation standpoint. There was a lot of humor in it, but it's really about a serious subject, and that is that the free press has been under, sort of attack all across the world. And with journalists being jailed and, things like that. And one of the things that has always made America wonderful is that we've never tried to silence our press. And, but in the wake of a very poorly thought out political ad, or not political ad, but political cartoon. And I don't know that it was poorly thought out. It was really controversial. Not anything, Muslim or anything like that. But it was one of those. The whole purpose of political cartooning has always been to get people to think, to engage in conversation. It's not necessarily meant to be critical, but the free press is really intended to be that check on power, and also to actually get you to think about things that you might otherwise not engage in conversation. And so in the wake of this particular controversy, and the fact that the newspaper that published it, I don't think it was the New York Times. This was a world thing. It got published across the world, but apparently it resulted in what they call social media mobbing. And it got a lot of negative response. So the New York Times and another major publication here in the United States decided that rather than run the risk of any kind of future social media mobbing, that they would simply discontinue political cartooning. And they fired all of their political cartoonists. And regardless of what you think about the free press, I'm sorry, that is really a dangerous precedent to set. To oppress the media, or, to basically it's censorship. It is not what democracy is about. And it is not what the free press should be doing, ever. Not out of fear. It's one thing to censor something that is untrue or libelous, or, which is why stories are investigated before they're published, at least in the real media, people that are actually trained journalists. But the idea of silencing political cartooning out of fear of the social media mob, am I the only one that thinks that's pretty scary? But that's a fairly controversial subject for a coloring channel. Sorry guys. Every once in a while I go off on the into deep space on my because I am a thinker. I am one of those that you know, that tries to look at the big picture, the long term. And that's part of my training. I was trained as an escrow officer, which, you know, people in the West know what that is, but if you're on the East Coast, it's think a real estate attorney. Our training is we have to be able to think at least 5 years ahead. So if somebody, and that, you know, because when you're typing up documentation, the question that you have to ask yourself is, if somebody who was completely unrelated to this file were to open it up 5 years from now, would they be able to figure out what happened? Would everybody's intent be clear? And so that is the basis on which you write escrow instructions. Any kind of contract. If somebody who was unrelated to this were to pick it up and would they be able to figure out what everybody's intentions were at the time? And if you can achieve that, then you have written a clear contract. And thus clear escrow instructions. So that's how I sort of approach the world. And communication in general. Thus I have to think a lot. And those two sides of my brain, the creative side that draws from my imagination and the side that thinks ahead for 5 years, are at constant war with each other. I just love the way these gradients work together. The you know, the pink and the gold. To me, it's just such a. I mean, it's a very fruit punch kind of color combination, and maybe that's why I like it, because I love fruit punch. If you make a bowl, you know, and put orange juice and then float like red oranges or red grapefruit and limes and all of that in it. I just love that. Add a bunch of 7-Up or ginger ale. You can use ginger ale. Seven Up might, no, well, actually, maybe 7-Up would be better because it's a citrus based. Okay, one more. We were talking in Dee Dee's stream on Monday about, or maybe it was Wednesday. Wednesday we went off on a rabbit trail, and the stream got interrupted at about 10 o'clock, which is really early for Dee Dee. But I kept watching for her to come back, and she never did. I guess that was this morning. And we were talking about all the different Star Trek episodes, and but the one that came to mind and as her favorite, and I knew what it was as she started to describe it, because I watched that Heroes and Icons channel, and all the Star Treks are on it every weeknight. All 5 of them are broadcast, one right after the other. And so she was talking about the episode where Captain Picard is, there's like an alien scan. Somebody's scanning the ship, and whatever it is, it knocks him out, and he's out for 25 minutes. And in that 25 minutes, he lives an entire lifetime on a, he's transported to, or suddenly, wakes up on a planet that he's never been to before. Everybody there seems to know him. And in the time that he's there, he falls in love, he has children, grandchildren, works out a way to save the sun of the planet, and then he dies. And when he dies, he actually learns to play the flute. That's it. Learns to play this flute. And when he dies of old age, he suddenly wakes up on the bridge of his ship. But only 25 minutes has passed. And so she was reminding us that they found this wreckage, supposedly, because one of the things that they discover is some wreckage from the planet, which has ultimately been destroyed. And in it is his flute, which of course he's happy to have. And supposedly what it was some kind of a memory scan that they had set up to tell their story, to tell the story of this planet, since it had ultimately been destroyed. But it was very cool, and as with all Star Treks, it really makes you think. Really does make you think about the time continuum and the perception of different universes and all kinds of good stuff. All that deep thinking stuff. All right, that was 3 different greens, by the way, that I just put inside that one little tiny space. But it makes it look like that, and I like that. Okay, now I'm going to move on. I'm going to let those dry, and I'll add the bit of orange zhuzh to it. I use that word a lot. It's my favorite. Zhuzh. Okay, so now I'm just adding in a little bit of the golden yellow next to where it is on this thing. into the little curlicues, for lack of a better description. They're curlicues. And where they tend to start, because I'm going for these gradients again, and I'm trying to remember what that was. That one. Yeah, okay. And I just made this, okay, a little bit longer. Okay, that's what I did. And then I'm just doing that same, oops, where is there it is. I'm doing that same scarlet pink. To orange. Or scarlet pink to rose pink, I guess is what it is. Making gradients. Just trying to remember which direction the gradients go. Rainbows. I don't know, what do you think? Do you think that this is turning out okay? I'm kind of liking it, and that is, I think that if, at the end of a coloring, if you can say you had fun with it, and you like it yourself, and it does not matter what anybody else thinks. I am certainly not a master colorist. But I'm really pleased with this color palette. I'm pleased with the contrasts. Like, I really like the green. I don't know what made me choose green for right there. It just, suddenly sort of came to me. What I was really trying to do was pull some of this green up into this area up here. And, but I like the way that came out. Wait, I missed one. This is the scarlet pink. There. And there. Okay. That's better. So now this is the rose pink, or the deep rose. I'm putting a fair amount of pigment on there. Not overdoing it, but, making it so that hopefully I only have to do one layer. And if you don't get enough on, you can do a second layer. Okay. So what is your favorite TV show? Do you have a new favorite, or your appointment TV? Tell me what you like to watch now, and what your favorite shows were. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Dancing with the Stars, of course, started again this week. And I usually start out pretty gung-ho on watching Dancing with the Stars. But then I stopped watching sort of the mid-range eliminations, and then start watching again when they get down to the, the finals. I just don't like it when they send home the good, when they send home good dancers, or dancers that I would like to see stay. And I do have to say that as much as I don't care for him, kudos to the former press secretary for being willing to put it out there with his bright green silk samba outfit. I have to admit, I did chuckle at that. Okay, now, and the way that I maintain the gradient is I just do that section and then I brush off the excess pigment. So that way they don't bleed into each other except at the very edges. And that way they maintain their color. For the most part. And of course, the trick with using water on creates, we call it create space paper, but it's actually Kindle KDP Amazon paper, which did get better with the change over to Amazon from CreateSpace. Is just to be fairly light with the water, which if you use a water brush is fairly easy, and to let it dry and don't go over it, don't go over it with a scrubbing motion while it's wet, and it won't pill the paper. So you can use any medium you want in any book, as long as you're light-handed. And the only exception to that really is markers, because markers will bleed through anything, alcohol markers. We were talking about it today in a stream, and that is that there is no paper that will prevent marker bleed through. So there's no such thing as bleed-proof paper when it comes to alcohol markers. Sometimes if the paper is so thick that it's like board, then it might not bleed through. But anything short of that, you are going to lose whatever drawing might be on the other side in a double-sided book. So just keep that in mind. There are plastic sheets down behind this, or a plastic sheet. Now the Inktense doesn't really bleed through because it's ink with water. And I've always wondered, if you filled a water brush with alcohol, would they then be alcohol markers? Because right now it's ink and water, which makes it a water medium. But if you filled a brush with alcohol, would it be An alcohol medium, I don't know. I honestly don't know how the Inktense would act with alcohol. I imagine it would be the same. Maybe we'll do that experiment. I don't happen to have any alcohol in the house, otherwise we could try it. Plus, I'm not certain how the mechanism or the insert of a water brush would work with alcohol, whether or not it would be harmed in any way. Because these are all, I mean, there's gaskets and rings and stuff like that in a water brush, which help monitor the flow of water. There's like a valve in there. And I don't know how that would act with alcohol, but that'd be an interesting experiment. And if you've ever tried it, let me know how it came out. Okay. Yay. So there are those. Okay, now I'm going to go back in, because these are dry, with my Scarlet Pink. And I went to the outside of these, like on this side, oops, on this side I went to the outside so that it's like lit from within. So I'm going to go to the outside again on these and just put in a bit of dark color on one side. And of course, if you're doing this, you can put it on any side you want. You can make the, you can make them any color you want. Now I could just leave them like that, which is perfectly fine. You can use Inktense dry. You don't have to use them wet, but I like to use them wet, and so I'm going to go ahead and activate them. Excuse me. I'm not really moving them so much as I am, whoops. Plus, I think it gives a little, sort of a bleed effect. Trying to tap off between each one, just to get rid of that extra pigment. There we go. Yeah. Okay, now for the fun one, which is this beautiful blue-green, which is the field green. So I've got the field green and the apple green. And let's see, I'm going to start with the field green. I'm just going to do an inside edge. And an outside edge. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the apple green. And just sort of leave that lighter colored highlight right there. Might as well do two of them, since we're here. So I really am keeping the dark just so that it looks like, I want these to look curved. And that one I'm leaving sort of wider. And then, ooh, the magic part. This is my favorite part. Okay, now I'm going to, first off, I'm going to make sure that I've got all that golden yellow and red and everything else worked off my brush. And so I'm going to wet the center. Oh, man. That was actually my stomach growling. It's like, Christine, you gave us dinner, but it was hours ago. And then I'll come down on this side and catch that darker green. I tap that off, and now I'm just going over it to sort of blend it into the other layer of apple, and it still left that nice area down the middle. And that'll really start to show up as it dries. So I'm going to wet that center part. Tap that off, and then start to do this part, which is the apple green. I'm not really moving it. I'm just sort of get into that dark green or that blue green and sort of let it just sort of fade up into the apple green. And that just gives you that pretty gradient or pretty blend. That's what blending is, really. You're just creating gradients. Gradients of color. Okay. I'm going to work my way back and down on this one. Go into the dark. Work it up a little bit. Into the lighter. Oops. And now you can go over the whole thing with one final stroke. And then as it'll dry, it'll do hopefully this same thing that it did up here. We won't know until it dries. So let's do a little magic. Ta-da! And just like that, we have the colored and dried in portions. I love to be able to do that in my videos. I just continued the greens on down, and then I went ahead and did this side as well. Left a few things. The last really bit that I wanted to show you is how I do a solid background with Inktense. Basically, it's just straight coloring and sort of an even application of the pigment. Not hard, not too soft, just sort of, letting the pigment catch on the tooth of the paper. And it looks very crayon-esque going down. But then when it is wet and you've got plenty of pigment to work with, then it turns solid. And I do this with the Inktense. I could, just take a marker to it. You could just take a black marker to it, which would be probably the easier way. But all of my black markers are my microns, and I don't like to use the archival ink for coloring, so I'll just do it with the Inktense. And it also gives me a chance to sort of roll my Inktense pencil, which helps keep a closer to decent point on them, because y'all know I don't like to sharpen my Inktense. It is now, by the way, the following day. I think I started this on Wednesday, or actually in the wee hours of Thursday morning, and it is now the wee hours of Friday morning. Back to about 1:44. I don't know about any of you, but I occasionally go through these bouts where I keep very odd hours. I'm better in the summertime about being awake during the daylight hours. And then wintertime, I think I must go into some kind of weird hibernation mode. And as it's coming on fall here in Virginia, we had a gorgeous day of sunshine and in the high 70s. By tomorrow, it's going to be back up into the 80s. So I don't have to put the shorts away yet. But it's cooling down enough at night to where I'm finding myself actually reaching for the blankets. Which in the summertime I just simply remove. It's so nice to be all warm and snug. This part is always sort of tedious as you're getting into all the little spaces. But even with, with a pretty blunt pencil, it's still fairly easy to do because as you go along, there's little points on your pencil, and you can find those points when you're doing these tiny little spaces like this. So let me finish adding this all around and we'll come back and we'll activate it. Okay, and there we go. Okay, now for the fun part. This is always my fun part. When I'm working with Inktense. Well, actually, any coloring really, to me, it's just magical. It's just magical. And you see you can work it right into where you left off. And I love the ink black and the Chinese ink or Chinese black. Such pretty colors in the Inktense. Just take your time, and as you've got the, hopefully by, now you've got the feel for your own individual brush and exactly how it works. Because they all work just a little bit differently. Excuse me. So it's 2 a.m. and I'm going to go to Walmart tonight at my appointed time, which is 3 a.m., which is after all the people who've been drinking in the bars have hopefully made their way home. All the nefarious types have gone to bed because they are rarely up that late. And Walmart is mine with just maybe one or two customers and the people who stock the shelves. Excuse me. And it's so calm and peaceful. Turn this over so that I can reach up into these areas. And I sort of pull it up so that I can see it. Because there's a glare from the light. So I either have to put my head down in front of the camera or hold it up here. Where I can see it. So I hope you all had a good day. If you are watching this in pieces, and I had some good news today. They did not keep my friend in the hospital. They let her go home with some more oral antibiotics, different ones. So that's good. This part is always really slow when you're trying to get all those little tiny areas, but not, not cover up with black the parts you've already colored. And since this is sort of a slow process, let me go ahead and finish this part up. And then when I come back, we'll add the embellishments to this side and call it a video. Be right back. And one more, ta-da! Okay, now I have the fun. I get to do the fun part. These are the Pentel Hybrid Dual Metallic Liquid Gel Roller Pens. And to my thinking, these are about the best glitter gel pens out there on the market. I have the copper one, which is, I think they call it orange, and they're different colors against different backgrounds. So against black, this one is golden. Wait. Against black, it's metallic yellow, and against white, it's orange. And then I've also got the pink, which is pink and metallic pink. And then there's a purple and blue, and a yellow, or a true gold. There's also a silver. This one is blue-green, and this one is green-blue. So you can get both on the black, both green and blue. Although I have to say that the green is more of a turquoise green, and the blue is more of a marine blue. And then we have black and metallic red. And the metallic red is really kind of pretty. Also, when I was at Walmart last night, I picked up a new glitter paint to go with. I've been testing out their extreme glitter, the folk art extreme glitter paints, and this is the black one. And I will tell you that the paint itself is not black. It is kind of a clear. And so it's best, you get the best result when you put it on something black. Now, this is still wet. This was just a square, an ink square that I did. And that's 3 coats, and this one is actually still wet, but, and so is this one a little bit. But let's see if I can get that to, you can see that it does glitter a little bit. It's not like their other paints. Like their gold is like that. The hologram is probably the best one. The gold, then there's silver, there's a hot pink fuchsia, and there's a red. But my favorite is really the gold, and also the hologram over blue is another favorite of mine. So just playing with different mediums. Just thought I'd throw that in since it's new. Okay, so I used the pink. I'm going to roll book just to give my hand the best angle. I have found that it's best to start, like all glitter gel pens, I start it on a piece of blank paper just to make sure the ink is flowing. And I'm just using a light touch. And I realize that that's probably not showing up for you yet, but it will here in just a second when I roll it over to catch the light. just little embellishments like this, even if they don't show up for the camera, they do show up for you when you're looking at it, and they kind of make me happy. So, see if I can roll. Come here, camera. I want you to be able to see that. There you go. A little bit, you can see it. So it's really just a very subtle effect. Go ahead and do both sides, since I'm right here. Trying to stay on the line. And I'm only doing this top one because I think that doing the whole thing, it just really isn't necessary. I just wanted to differentiate that top one. So there's the pink. And now for the workhorse, which is the orange. Only on any kind of a color, it dries gold. If you look at it on white, it is kind of orange, but on anything else, any other color, it really does dry gold. Just like you can see it up here, how it draws gold. It shows up much better there. And so on these, I just make dots and just sort of evenly space them. They can be whatever size dots you want. I went with bigger ones. Excuse me. Sorry about that. You keep catching my voice fairly fresh in the day. As I've been filming this in pieces. And I don't talk a lot at home. So it never gets truly warmed up. Had to put those last two a little closer together than I would normally have done. But you get the idea of this embellishment. You can put embellishments anywhere you want. And then here on the inside, I made them a little smaller so that they would look like buttons, sort of holding down this big wide green ribbon. And then here, I just followed the little curve. And put a few in there. Excuse me. And let's see. No, I ignored those in the bottom, the top one. So we'll just go, and it helps sometimes for spacing if you start up there in the corner and then fill in. You can just eyeball this. Okay, so that sort of gives you an idea, and maybe you have a different idea for embellishments. Maybe you want to use a white Posca, or whatever colors that you used, a complementary color of some sort. There are no rules. You don't have to use embellishments. You could use stickles. I don't have any stickles, so I use glitter pen. I ordered a new book, a book to read. I've been seeing over on Monkey Island Madness, which is Janet, and her, let's see, I think it's her daughter's boyfriend, or her son's girlfriend has sent her a book, and she's finding it very interesting to read. So I've ordered a copy of it. It's called House of Leaves, and supposedly it's one of those mind-blowing books. So I'm looking forward to reading it. And yeah, all right. I am really liking the way that those embellishments come out and the way they show up, even for the camera. So that is just how I colored this one. And of course, if you like my work and would like to color this, once again, this is in my book, Fantasy Flower Garden. And it will also be in the, what I'm sure you're thinking by now, must be mythical, 40 Fan Favorites Volume 2, the birds from Flowers and Flyers and the mice from Fantasy Flower Garden are both in there. And it really is coming out soon, I promise. And so I hope that you have liked watching me color this. I hope that you will choose to color one of your own. Until we meet again on the next video, please color something pretty. And thank you so much for spending some time with me.